Praise the Lord. Welcome once again. We are continuing on our study of exploring the life of Daniel. But today we are going to be dwelling on the handwriting on the wall, and the main characters are King Belshazzar and Daniel. Praise the Lord. In this, we are studying Daniel chapter 5. In this book, King Belshazzar called for a feast and invited all the nobles in Babylon, and they came for the feast. While they were wining and dining, enjoying themselves, he asked for the vessels that were taken out of the temple in Jerusalem when his father, King Nebuchadnezzar, attacked Jerusalem years back. He asked for these vessels, gold and silver vessels, that he wanted to drink from those cups. And those vessels are sacred vessels from the temple of God. They're sacred. They are meaning that they are special and holy things that you don't play with. So he asked for these cups and he started drinking wine from these vessels. As he was drinking, immediately he saw a hand, and that hand started writing on the wall. He was shocked, he was afraid, and he began to tremble. He didn't know what to do. He quickly asked that they should call all the wise men of Babylon, just like his father. Remember, his father is always asking for those wise men to come and free him or reveal things to him that they most times, or almost all the time that we have studied, they never have been able to reveal. And when the wise men came, none of them could understand the handwriting, talk less of interpreting that handwriting. In that weary state, the queen came and said, I remember there's this man called Daniel that was close to your father when your father was alive. And whenever we had a situation like this man was always coming to the rescue because he has the Spirit of God in him. I would advise that you call him to read this. Most likely, he will be able to interpret it. And the king quickly told them to call in Daniel. Daniel came, and when Daniel came, he told Daniel that he had promised the wise men that anyone that could read and interpret the handwriting, he would give them riches and honor, and also make them to be the third man in the hierarchy of leadership in Babylon. Daniel told him, don't bother, I'm not interested in whatever you're promising, but I will interpret. I will read and I will interpret. And Daniel went ahead and read. And what the handwriting on the wall said, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. And he gave an interpretation. And he said, Mene means that God has numbered your kingdom and has finished it. Tekel, he said, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting, meaning that he is guilty of wrongdoing. Peres said, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. So, meaning that you have done wrong, God has judged, and God has divided your kingdom. Of course, nobody wants to hear that kind of thing. The king commanded that, just as he had promised, that Daniel should be clothed, as he had said, in scarlet, and put on a chain of gold about his neck. And he made Daniel the third in the hierarchy of leadership in Babylon. Do you know what happened next? Just as God's word never falls to the ground without producing the results that it says, that night, King Belshazzar was attacked and he was killed that night. And King Darius of the Medes became the next king. He took over Babylon and he became the next king of Babylon. From this story, we can find out that God's things are sacred and we should treat them as sacred things. Because if we don't, we are asking for God's judgment, which will never be nice. It also tells us that we should not forget who gives us power. This king, if he had humbled himself, because Daniel also reminded him that your father was arrogant, was proud when he was the king. And that cost him 7 years of his life to live as an animal in the forest until he recognized God as the ruler and the king of all kings. That was when God freed him and made him to come back and gave him restored him back to the king, to become the king of the kingdom of Babylon. So your father was arrogant, but God restored him. And I thought that you will be wise because you are aware of that experience. You will be wise to lead in humility, to fear God, because when you fear God, that is the beginning of wisdom, and God honors humility. So we have to learn that humility cannot be traded for anything, especially in our relationships with God. And the things that are important to God, that are sacred to God, should never be treated as minor things or treated as trash. Praise the Lord. I hope we've learned a few things today and we have taken the learning points to apply in our lives. Praise the Lord. See you next time and have a good day. Praise the Lord.